members and old members. We have all the tomorrow's. We have Alice and Jessica, who charging the public speaking study group. Welcome everybody join, and also we have the Susan tomorrow. The upcoming projects like interview help candidates and graduates to know more interview tips and go find your dream job. And then I just quick introduction for the Pete. Pete is my colleague and is now head of product and lead in Profoco, which is also co-founder of his own company 2020, who help a lot of companies, entrepreneurs like us to grow. So if everyone's need growth, find Pete. Yeah, so I just pass the mic to you, Pete. So let's get started.
All right, thank you very, very much. Let me start presenting my screen. This is always the hardest part.
Yeah,
okay.
Please, guys, can you mute yourself? Then we have a Q&A afterwards. 我们之后有问答的环节。
Okay, you can see 2020 and CUK run on the screen. Is that right? Are we ready to go? Okay, so first of all, I signed up for a half marathon in May, the Hackney Half Marathon. So there are two things we have in common now. I'm a runner and I'm Chinese. So I'd love to walk you through a quick introduction, what I do, where I am at now, to get to know me. I'll tell you all about the market, the company, maybe some secrets if I can wrap it up. I love to help, I love to teach. That's my kind of personality. And I'll tell you about the future, I guess. So quick one, some history. I'm British born Chinese, originally Guangzhou. Mum and dad came here in the 90s. Had quite a typical Chinese immigrant kind of upbringing. We had takeaways and restaurants. And I grew up very, very entrepreneurial, helping mum and dad all the time. And it was a very family experience for me. I went to UCL, studied economics, went into finance for a short while, and I loved tech a lot more. So 3 months into finance, I thought, no, I'm going to start a business. So that's where UCL comes in. I studied something related to entrepreneurship at UCL, and I jumped into startups. So all I did over the next 5 years, eventually ending at Monzo, was work with high growing, fast entrepreneurial businesses. So I've worked in companies of size 1, 10, 100, 1,000. I've done almost all of the roles because I want to start a business and understand them. So I've managed tech teams, I've managed marketing teams and budgets. I wanted to know how to code. So I learned how to code and became a web engineer. So that was the first thing I did just before Monzo. And I've worked in so many industries in the technology sector. So I've done automotive industry, property industry, fintech through Monzo. I've done food tech as well. And I've done social media apps as well. So in the startup world, I know quite a lot. I know a few people. That's how I met Iris, your co-founder, or the founder you applied for that business. I know him through networking, and I know quite a few entrepreneurs. I just love fast-growing businesses. Yeah, so currently I'm a co-founder of 2020. My co-founder's in the background, and we work together to grow businesses, and we come into small teams and help them take them to the next step. We just love working with small teams. So that's us, yeah. So there's 3 of us at the moment, and this is quite interesting actually. So we want to use modern methods and timeless principles. I learned so much from my family and mum and dad, and all they taught me were principles. And through education, I learned about modern methods, analysis, how to think. But what drives our business are all of the principles to be a good person, to do good work. So that's what I'm building into my business at the moment. And if you're interested in a space like Tina said, say hi. Okay, so that's the intro. Let's talk about Monzo. So I was at Monzo where I combined all of my experience in the past. It's actually quite a lucky but fantastic moment. I was the first web engineer on their marketing team. So they're looking for their first tech person. They were looking for someone that understood marketing, so I can speak marketing language, and someone that could organize their own tasks and know how to build features and websites and know to manage my own time. So I was brought in as the first engineer on a team that also had designers, marketers, and data scientists. So this was a marketing team that was cross-functional. We had everything. You could build any sort of experience you wanted. And if you're on Monzo today, we just released Year in Monzo, and this is a data experience where we tell you where you use your money, which countries, and your favorite friends, and analysis. So that's a hint at what Monzo do quite well, the user experience. So yeah, I was on their marketing team. I was their engineer for a year and about a year in 2019 mostly. But what is Monzo to people that don't know? We were one of the first real challenger banks to do new banking very, very well. We started in East London. It was just a top-up card before. It started as a small hacker project where you could top up your card like an oyster, put £100 on it and slowly spend it. And actually a funny story is, you see Starling here, the co-founder or the founder of Monzo started at Starling Bank, and then he didn't like where they were going, so they jumped out. He jumped out of Starling, brought a few people and started a competing bank. So it was a challenger bank to the challenger bank. So actually Monzo has in the early days, is quite connected to Starling Bank. But that was only for a few months, very short part of the story. But now it's not a top-up card anymore. They have so much more. The mobile app has gone very, very far. And you have your normal current account, you have your loans, you can get overdraft. There's now a premium service. There are business accounts now, and there's lots of small, fun, smart services. So auto switching your energy bills and your other bills. There's also lots of analytics and credit scores and aggregation of lots of your accounts. The theme there, the mission is one place and to make all of your money work. So one place for all your finances and really help people use their money much better. Over here, people don't talk about money too much. It's not really part of the culture, and people often, they're not very responsible. So this is part of a new wave of banking, which is, look, we're here to help. We are a bank that cares about the person, we care about user experience, and we're modern. So that's the thing. And one thing that was really important, as you see here, very high overall service quality. So First Direct were top for many, many years, I think 10, 15 years, top service level, and they won awards for it. And then we came in and took them off the top. And we really pushed customer service to the next level. And I'll tell you in a bit later, but that's how we grew. We really made an amazing banking service that was ahead of its time. Before us, banking was really slow. Users were not cared for. Customers were, last on the list of cares. It was all about money and other things. So that's Monzo. I hope you try it out. It's a really, really good service. And it's one of the fastest growing startups in the UK. I think they're a unicorn. They're about 1,000 people and they're expanding very, very quickly. Cool. So zoom out very quickly. I can describe the market. I realized when doing this task, it's like an economics lesson. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about how the market works, but it's essentially people use traditional banking services. So the market is formed of current accounts and basically lending accounts. And just some numbers here, 73 million current accounts. So that's more than a population. So some people have more than one account. Lots of business accounts, and we saw that as an opportunity. So we've also opened business accounts. And mostly it's about deposits. The industry is all about taking in deposits, holding it, and the industry will make money by making lending, making returns on lending, interest rate lending. And mortgages are an example of that. These big banks have lots and lots of money, and they lend out mortgages to people and make an interest rate on that. And finally, credit. We all have perhaps a credit card and have an interest rate on that. And that is, again, how the traditional model works. Monzo are very similar. They make their money in a very similar way. One thing you may not know is that they make a lot through merchant fees or transaction fees. So they don't charge you for your current account, but by you using it online, with a merchant online, with a shop, there will be a small cut. Visa or MasterCard have a little cut, and then Monzo gets part of the cut. So the more transactions you make, the more you spend, the more Monzo makes. So that's one part of the model. I'll go into that later. But when comparing the competitors, there's really one key thing, and that's the ability to build new features very, very quickly. If you ask startuppers or people that watch Monzo from a tech perspective, they're a product company. So they release features very, very quickly to the mobile app, Android and iOS. And they have very quick feedback loops. They listen to the customer, they build in new features, and they're constantly iterating, building new versions and learning very quickly. I'll give you an example. We released the feature to freeze your card. So you may see that quite common now, to freeze your card if you lose it. We were maybe 2-3 years ahead of the market there, and we built that within months. So it just goes to show, with a product-focused company, we run business a bit differently. Our competitive advantage is being able to build quicker and improve quicker than banks. Banks are really, really slow in that regard. I mean, they're picking up. So what you see here is that they're starting to wake up and they're building a lot more features as they come. And there's a lot of challenger banks on this slide. Maybe you recognize them. Revolut is one, Starling Bank is another one, the purple one, as you see, TransferWise and Monese. So yeah, product teams are so important at Monzo, and I'll tell you about the product culture, the design culture, and the user experience stuff to think about. And marketing was often a big part of that itself. So I talked about how it makes money. There was the standard way of making money, and most of the money for traditional banks is through mortgages or lending. And we don't really do those projects because we're not a big bank with lots of capital. We're just a startup. So we can't be lending billions and billions to people over the course of 10, 20, 30 years on our mortgages. So we found different ways to make money. Predominantly, this is through premium services. So you see there's a big push towards Monzo Premium. You might see Revolut also pushing premium as well. And other additional products to make money for Monzo include smart switching services, for example. So they can automatically find you a new gas provider in 1 or 2 clicks. You'll save £100 and Monzo will take a few % from that. And what challenger banks are doing are finding new ways to make money that are not traditional. That may be new products, new features that are for comparison, or making giving new financial products like cryptocurrency. But honestly, there's so many different things that people are trying, and I don't think there's one winning strategy to becoming a profitable challenger bank. I'll talk about how Monzo grows. So it's a pool of people that is either growing because of the population. So you have people that are now becoming age 16, 17, 18. We're very popular amongst the younger population. And whenever they're ready to buy one or get a Monzo bank account, they often come with us. So new bank account openings, we do a lot of them. I think we do 20, 30% of new account openings. Another way we grow is through account switching. So the great thing about the regulation here is that they've made it so a customer must be able to switch their accounts very, very easily without any cost. And the FCA did that to ensure better competition, and that people couldn't, or companies cannot lock you down. So we also get a lot of new accounts from switching. Stealing accounts really is quite important for us to become the main account for a person. And once they become the main account, we realize that that's when our revenues really increase. So you might notice in the app, there's a lot of a push towards a main account for us to become the main account. Great, so that is how we make money. I'll go through some advantages and disadvantages of the way we work through the experience I've had. It's a bit like SWOT analysis. I know someone asked about strengths and weaknesses. Advantages, I said it before, development speed. We get things out in months. Like I said, today we released a new feature called Year in Monzo. That's the 3rd time this year. We did it 3 years before. I released that the first time and we had 2 months to get it out. And development cycles in normal banks, they're probably a year. But for us, we're releasing things. The app gets updated every 2 weeks. And we try to release some sort of fix or improvement every 2 weeks. So we're releasing at startup speed, but in a very old and slow industry. So because we're a bank that grew from new technologies and new cultures, like working culture, we're just so much quicker. And there's a lot of engineers in there that design processes. So when I was an engineer, there were my own engineers to help me deploy new features quicker. So platform engineers, like release engineers. And it was also an engineering culture. Like if Barclays is mostly financial innovation and financial products, we were all about getting the best engineers and driving new product changes ourselves. But with engineering came user-first thinking, another advantage we have. Again, if you ask around, people will really show you that they love Monzo. It's because we always put the user first. And that's not just about our products, but we care for the user. It's part of customer service. So we say, what can we do in terms of customer service, in terms of the product, to make the user a better, happier person? So one big example we have is the gambling block. We realized that a lot of our users spent on gambling and they have this habit and addiction. So we built some features in our apps to identify gambling behavior and to slow it down and to control it. And if you think on a monetary level, that's not good. The more they gamble, the more money they put in, the more money you can make from these users. But we were ready to stop and rethink stuff like that and go, look, it's not healthy for the user. What is best for them? And let's build that. So we think always with user first thinking. One good example from within the company is that if there's a decision to be made, first you think about the user and then the team and then yourself. So we were encouraged not to be selfish, see how you can help the team. And then once you've helped the team, if you can't agree on something on the team level, on the team incentive level, let's bring it to the user. Like, what is the best for the user? And that's, you have to experience it to understand it, but it would open up debates, it would stop decisions because we just cared about it so much. Another example of user first thinking is language. We put so much time into good, simple, clear, very friendly language. And it wasn't just for marketing. So when you're speaking to someone on the phone, when you're chatting, the legal documents that we write, the app, everything had to be very good or simple and friendly English. I worked with the writing team at Monzo, which unified and made the kind of branding and tone of voice. And the one example he tells you is, you know, you may, when they want you as a customer, so when a new bank wants you as a customer, they'll be really nice, very inspirational, they'll be very friendly. But if you miss a payment or you owe some money, suddenly it's red language, you know, very aggressive, it's scary, they write you letters, and that change in language is not, it's not user first, you're trying to scare them and it's trying to push the user the way you want it. So the writing team were always thinking user first, let's speak so the user understands us. And it's a banking product. So we need to cover the 17-year-old, the 18-year-old, all the way up to the 60-year-old and 70-year-old. We're not just fintech. We are a bank now. So people often call us the challenger bank. In terms of regulation, we are the same as any other bank. Your deposit is protected. We have the same regulations. We have the same service level. We're actually just a bank. So we wanted to just become a better bank. And all this kind of user first thinking, building features for the user means we have really, really high brand value. and really, really high customer satisfaction. So there's a measure called NPS. You can look that up. I can send it to you after. But basically, that's a score for how good and how much your users love you. We had a really high one. So on average, the industry was 20, 30 out of 100. And we consistently hit 80, which is, you could say 4 times more, but banking has never seen such high satisfaction for its customers. And that's why people really, really talked about us a lot. And we spread like fire. So we didn't really spend on marketing. It's kind of incredible. For 4 years, we got to 4 million customers. We didn't spend on paid advertising. We didn't spend on like big, expensive ways of getting customers. People just talked about us a lot. And that was just because we put user first and made it easy for people to talk about us. And finally, another advantage is that our tech cost is really, really low. You think about new websites or new software products, we're like that. So, I can't give a number, but the old technology to run a bank account is a few £100 for like Barclays or HSBC. We are many times smaller than that. So we can run all of the services for a customer in terms of technology for a tiny amount of that. And that means we can scale and multiply so much quicker. So that's one thing I can't tell you the details of, but it's a strong advantage. Like that is not something traditional banks can compete with. One side of that is that we don't have branches. We don't have actual physical places to put and to come and meet our service people. We're chat and phone only, but customers love it. It's a new generation and a new customer experience now. We don't really need to go into shops or go into bank branches to do our banking now. And I think customers want that. But disadvantages, let's talk about those threats. I said it a bit earlier, we can't do the real core banking services that make a lot of money. So mortgages, mostly, big amounts of lending, we don't do that stuff. And business loans, we don't really do. So these are really big products that traditional banks make a lot of money of, and we're not there yet. I can see us doing it maybe in many years ahead and just having much better technologies to do it better. Right now, we're 5 years old. We can't really play with billions of dollars. I think the valuation of the company is $1 billion. So when we're talking about trillions to manage, we're not on that level. And another disadvantage and a threat, it's fraud. A lot of new banks are targets for people to open fraudulent accounts. They're easier to use, they're international, they're mobile. ID checks are online. So a lot of people want to open fraudulent accounts and pay money in and quickly. I don't know what they do. I don't know enough. But money laundering is a real problem. But we are under regulatory control. The FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, helps us regulate, and there are really strict standards, and we're there to do them. But it's always a problem. We're always fighting fraud, and fraud is getting smarter and smarter. But maybe that's where we're also good, because we have new technologies to help us do that. We use a lot of AI in-house as well. A final disadvantage currently, we provide great customer service, but it comes at a cost. So when you get no customer service from one of your banks, it means they save a lot of money. For us, we're not willing to let that go. So we spend a lot of time and money on our customer service cost. And they work on this quite a bit. We have technology inside to help us serve our customers much better. So we built our own software to reply to chats, to use different systems to change issues and to get it to the right person. So we're working on it, but yeah, customer service cost is really high. But if it's what people want, I think that's normal for the industry. Cool. And the final thing, that's how we make money. It's how good or bad we are. I'll talk about a bit what we're looking ahead to the future, and just some topics very quickly to open up questions. So yeah, for Monzo, I see a huge future opportunities. Recently, if you read up on it, there's new leadership. So we've had a veteran from America, a tech sort of background guy with decades of experience come in, and he's gonna bring all that banking experience and new product experience. And I'm interested to see what happens under new leadership. Previously, the CEO, he was quite young, really good culture, really good team energy, but he didn't have, decades of banking experience. And we're starting to become that much more formal, stronger bank. So let's see what happens in new leadership. Another thing is the USA launch. So we opened up a trial of the USA. It's a very different, I know we speak the same language and it's the same sort of culture, but the system is very different and very much slower. They still use pens to sign their checks. Currently, we use chip and pin here and put your pin number in. That's new to them. Contactless, only Apple Card recently brought on contactless. And the kind of regulations and the money to be made, like the commissions and the transactions, bit different. So there's lots of difficult things in the USA market, but it's hundreds of millions of people. It's a big country with lots of opportunity, and they're underserved. The customers there need a lot of help with their banking. I think the majority of them, I think like 90% of them live paycheck to paycheck, meaning at the end of the month, they've got £0, and most of them live that way. So financial management, financial responsibility, they're crying for it. They really need it. And so we think we got a product that really does that well. Another future item is a credit card. This is unconfirmed. I don't know anything about it, but why it may be an option or opportunity is that the fees are much higher. So in America, even higher. Amex gives you such a good loyalty scheme. Over here as well, whenever you spend with a credit card, the merchant fees are higher. So the seller that you paid for or paid with, they have to pay a bit more to MasterCard. And then we get a bit more as well. So we want, higher transactions and higher commissions, and that's going to be through credit card one day. I don't know when they're opening that. Business banking, we did open that. I helped launch that as well. And businesses need totally different services, but we have the same principles. Let us help you. Let's be user focused. Let's develop really good digital products. And we've started web portals and online banking, and it's a hot space. Lots of money to be made there. And modern businesses need a lot of financial services. So there's a lot of opportunity there as well. Integrations and marketplace. So lots of apps are connecting now. On the Monzo Plus premium package, you can connect your Google spreadsheets to Monzo. You can connect your other bank accounts to Monzo. You can connect accounting software. So software is going into integrations and connecting softwares together. There's such an opportunity there. UX focus. So what I mean by that is, what does the user want? Banking and daily spend is one thing. What about your stocks and shares? What about your savings? What about your homes? What about financial planning? What about family finances? Ultimately, finances are not complete yet. We need to listen to the user. What do they want? And I'm sure they're going to build something that users need. And they're the ones I'm going to bet on. I might be biased. And finally, web banking. Multi-platform banking is going to be the future. We've done the mobile app really, really well. We've done the web banking for businesses quite well. I see them doing more web experiences as well. And a final touch note is that in the very long term, when you zoom out, ultimately for the market the future for the market is a lot more regulatory control. There are more financial services coming out, and there are lots of new banks coming up. And it's quite easy for users to get confused, to pick the wrong service, and actually scams. I think there was a recent new challenger bank, which was not regulated at all and had a fake banking license. And we need to keep the consumer safe. So that's something that's going to happen in the market. And finally, open banking. That's another interesting topic where the data and the systems for banking previously, super old. and there's no open standards, there's no new technologies coming, and services could not speak to each other. You couldn't get your data easily. You used to have to print it off maybe 5 years ago. So now data is being spread, things are connecting up and becoming much smarter. And now you'd probably notice you can connect your bank accounts together, connect your Barclays, and watch all of your bank details and information come into one place. And that's because of new pushes from the FCA to make banking more open, the technology is more open, and that's going to be great. Let's see what happens from it, but that's something that all fintech companies are watching. So yeah, there's a lot on the future slide. I'm open to any questions you may have. It's a few of it's speculation, a few it's quite interesting, and that's my presentation. So happy to take any questions. I've got my WeChat and email if you can't think of a question right now but want to follow up. But yeah, hit me up. Any questions? I'm happy to share.
Yeah, thank you, Pete. Any questions? I think you covered most of the questions we had already they asked. So I think the one we can pick 胡峰源，你可以问一下您的问题。
Hi Pete, thank you for the talk. Yeah, I'm very interested in this area. I can't remember exactly the question I submitted earlier. It's something about can you just give me a second?
Sure.
Now, do you have the question?
Yes. It's how do you can choose your own the digital banking which is best for yourself?
So the best digital banking service.
Yeah, how to choose, how the user can choose.
Oh, okay, that's quite a personal finance.
Yeah, Pete, can you stop the sharing? Share the.
Yeah, go on. You share the screen.
Yes,
no.
Yeah, just want to extend my question. For example, I'm using Bank of Scotland. Like I started to use Bank of Scotland when I first came to the UK. I've been using it over 10 years, and to be honest, I'm kind of happy with the app. It's basically, I'm quite satisfied with what the functions are there, but I mean, what's the motivation for myself to move to the challenger banks like Monzo or other? Banking app,
Yeah, so check out the website. I think the marketing team do a great job. But you know, the first thing was budgeting graphs and analysis. You can imagine this 10-year-old Scottish product. I don't know how you analyze your finances, but it just gave a bar chart and a pie chart and a budget level. And that was enough to make people go crazy over it. And that just goes to show how undereducated or unsophisticated the mass market is when it comes to banking. So this was one step, but they're now building more and more additional features quicker than traditional banks. So it connects. Oh, here's a cool feature. I don't know if you're techie or not, but there's virtual cards. So you can create a disposable card, use it once and throw it away. And that way you can never get tracked for that again, or you can control your spending so that the subscription doesn't happen again. There are too many, I think, things to really describe, but it's all about convenience and confidence in money. So if you use Monzo, I can guarantee you feel more confident with your money and know how you use your money. I hear hilarious stories like people don't check their bank accounts for 2 months, or they're scared to know what's inside and they don't look inside. And yeah, it's a real problem for some people to talk about finances, and it's helped make it more friendly.
Yeah, definitely. I see a lot of people are nodding. I just want to add that this is a business case discussion forum. So thank you for Peter for making the introduction of the overview of the case. But anybody, if based on the question, you have comments, thoughts, please do add in so then we can enrich the conversation. You may know something that's quite unique based on your expertise or background. So certainly chime in as you can. What you can do is you can use the raise your hand function on the reactions or somehow then signify that you wanted to speak, and then we can unmute the line. So you
they have already dropped the message in the chat. So next should be Victor.
Great. Thank you so much for the interesting chat, Pete. I really enjoy the perspective of how Monzo has grown. As an entrepreneur myself in the startup world, I really appreciate the story. I'm really interested to think about how you see many companies, traditional companies, being kind of taken over, kind of new tech companies. So, for example, you have how Blockbusters was, completely replaced with Netflix. And I'm just wondering that, is it the case that challenger banks like Monzo, I mean, what is the relationship going to be with traditional banks in the future? Is it going to be the case that maybe Monzo is going to replace banks, possibly? Or is it the case that Monzo is going to do something different to banks? Or is it going to kind of compete directly with banks for customers? So I'm really interested in, what you think the relationship will be with Monzo and traditional banks in the future.
Yeah, this is a media story. So this whole traditional bank versus challenger bank, it's not a competition as much as you think. So the market is so big, there's not much beating up of each other. It's not one versus one. There's lots, people can open more than one current account. So a lot of ours have been new current account openings, and people are trying something out in that way. But there's space for everyone to grow currently, and we're not looking to take on like Barclays or HSBC or some of the bigger banks. We're looking to take on maybe a customer segment, perhaps the younger population, a bit easier to serve. They love us a lot more. They're the new generation of financial spenders and soon to have more money. So I guess in that segment more so, but I don't see like a extinction event. We're not going to knock out. And I think we're actually at the point where they're going to survive. So I definitely see Monzo, Revolut, Starling staying. And then you just see the market shares change. And this is going to be a new kind of market equilibrium. But what's great is that banking is going to improve for everyone. So when you saw the graph earlier, NatWest and they're scared and they're starting to build features very, very quickly. So it's good for everyone. Better features, better banking, and we're all here to stay and just make it work out, I think. But it's not as big of a competition at all. We're not in our offices thinking, oh, we're going to fight Barclays and we need to beat them. There's more competition between challenger banks. So Revolut, Monzo, Starling, Monzo, Revolut, and much more there. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Thanks so much for the answer. It's a great answer.
Yeah,
Pete. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Cheers.
next shall be Shensi.
Hi, I'm Shensi.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter, for such an amazing presentation for us. I actually know Monzo quite earlier because my boyfriend worked in venture capital, and like 3 years ago, Monzo actually found them to looking for investment, but they rejected. I think it's like 3 years ago, because at that time, Monzo didn't have any didn't even have a license for like bank or something. So at that time they rejected, and I'm not sure if this is his biggest mistake in his life or something. But I'm quite impressed by the but when you say about marketing, you don't like for the 5 years you don't have really paid for marketing, but you gain like 4 million users. So I'm quite curious about like how you really like get in touch with these customers, and where do you like catch them, and how do you find their needs, and like what's your regular marketing like routine if you don't pay for marketing?
Yeah. So first of all, for people to know, the banking license is very important. It means that now you're on the same regulatory control and protection as compared to any other bank. So that means Barclays or HSBC, however much they protect you, we're protected the same way as a consumer. On marketing, maybe there's a quick story. So in the early days, it was in East London, a small tech startup, and it was this orange card and you could not miss it. Everyone around East London was using it and became very, very popular word of mouth. So it's one of those, maybe Uber in San Francisco, like a small little population that loved it, and it became very exclusive. So first trick they did was that they didn't allow signups, and you could only sign up if you invite a friend. So then there was a huge kind of PR piece, and people were like, what's a Monzo card? Can I get one? And then if you invite a friend, you're onto the list, and the list built out. So first thing was exclusivity, and they were very new, and people talked about it a lot. So that was the first thing. The second thing, you're right, we involve the user a lot. So one of the biggest things, you should go on Monzo and click on community. From the very early days, we talked to our customers about everything, what we're going to build in the next 3 months, what they wanted to see, what was going right, what was going wrong. Every month there'll be events, and you can speak to the CEO. So it built this culture of very openness, and that was different for a bank. We were the first ones to be open, friendly, young, and new. So that was very attractive, and people talked about that a lot. So there's an online community forum, lots of offline activities as well that drove their growth. Then there was also really good content marketing. So they wrote about topics that we're scared of, like how do I budget for a family of 2, or really personal financial stories, which people wanted to read. You don't go to the Barclays website. I don't know if anyone has read an article written by a bank, but here Monzo are talking about really important topics, like how to get an overdraft if you're a student, or how to get a mortgage, or how to budget very, very well, because we cared about smaller topics. And then the final thing was referral. So people did referral. They spoke to everyone about their friends. It was really cool to do so. But then they built it into the product and put in a referral scheme. I think £10, £10. Invite a friend, get £10, and that grew like crazy. And you can think the acquisition cost is £10 for us, and we don't need to do much. Compare that to a typical acquisition cost of a new banking customer. I've forgotten what it is, but it's a lot more than £10. So it started with a product that people loved. That was the core, and then we slowly got those people to speak more, and they loved it. So it was really concentrated, to be honest, from the beginning. But yeah, brand. They have really good brand power. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a very impressive answer. And could you please tell me, before you got banking lessons, what was your main business at that time?
There was not a business really. It was just proving out that there's a new way to bank. So before the banking license, it was top up card. And then when you top up card, you make a bit of money, but there was no real monetization back then. And then once you become a bank, you start getting much more fees and overdrafts. And we do loans as well. So someone wrote, do you do short-term loans? We do a tiny bit. So yeah, in the early days, it was
Thank you.
Startup. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, next, Sheena. Yeah, Sheena, your question.
Is it on the chat?
Okay. I can't talk. Maybe I would just skip. That's Kevin. Kevin, I think you submit your answer before as well. You can ask you by yourself then.
Yes. Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm kind of new to this platform. Thank you, Pete, for sharing your experiences. And very interestingly, I actually work at Barclays, not in a traditional kind of banking arm, but more towards the investment banking arm. So I've been, looking at the fintech landscape. So this is quite interesting to me. And I asked the question whether, Monzo does short-term loan origination, because some of the problems that old financial institutions face is that they can't originate as much as high quality loans, probably given your access to good customers and you have the data. You can do something kind of like a mini end group, which is super. If you read Chinese media, it's like super hot at the moment. Sometimes I don't agree with their approach, but do you think this is a direction that Monzo can travel towards? Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, definitely. So here's an example I remember from a presentation. So traditional banks don't use many data points when you make a transaction. They maybe look, you see it on your statement. It says, you know, who was it? How much was it? What time was it? That's about it. But there's so many more data points in each transaction, about 150. And, you know, as a new company with new data systems and new technology, we can analyze so much out of that. So in terms of a data science problem, we have bigger data sets, and with ML and AI, we push that a bit more. So our lending is kind of AI driven, ML driven. But honestly, loans are very, very hard. The strategy we took was do a bit first, and you know, as any startup would do a bit, build your confidence and grow it out. But you know, ultimately, it's going to be an AI ML problem. Like the more data points you can get, and Monzo as an app can get a lot of data points, and the better you can process and build models on that data, you're going to be able to predict, you know, transactions, behaviors, outcomes much, much better. So if I were to bet on one person or one company or one type of company doing it better, whoever has the best data, whoever has the best data models, and then can iterate and push that out quicker, that's who I'm going to bet on. So yeah, loans are a big part of any sort of bank, and we also want to do it very responsibly. The financial part is, if we push out too many loans and get it wrong, we get a lot of defaults. We have to pay up a lot on our insurance, and we lose money. But also, it's irresponsible, and ultimately it's user first, and we don't want to push people into loans. Really interesting. Our loans marketing, there's a cultural element, like loans are bad. Don't ever borrow money, and we changed that a bit by saying no, like loans are good if there's a need, and you know how to manage your money. Like the best entrepreneurs in the world don't use their own money, they use loaned money, and they leverage that. So loans can be great if you know how to use it, and we came in to educate. So that's what we did. But let's see what happens. I've got my bet down on Monzo, but you probably got Barclays, right? So
no, actually I've got Revolut, Monzo and Barclays, so I'm quite how would you label this group of users? I don't know, low loyalty or something.
trying things out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
No problem. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's Hedy.
Should we go back to Shina?
No. We can go back to it then. Because I will ask her for her, but yeah, just finish when someone can ask the questions by themselves. Yeah, Hedy.
I am here. Yeah, I think there's some problem on my speaker, so I will try to speak loudly. So last year, a friend recommended Monzo to me, so I just registered an account. Then I found it's really very convenient, and it's really like a remarkable products. I love it. So I start to pay attention on the information. I just remember as kind of like I can remember last year or the day or 2019. I forgot the exact time, but there is a report which is kind of analyze of the 4 major challengers banks in UK. So in that report, it's mentioned one question about potential risks such as the lending and stress testing and data security. So I remember in that report they mentioned one thing, like the British media reports think the challenger banks should tighten the standard and correct the risk models. So I just do you have any like thoughts about this depending the risks?
Yeah. It's so important. You know, there's making money, but we're a bank, and now we've got a license, so we're being watched a lot. So the first thing you can know that is that there are lots of guidelines and lots of quality levels to adhere to, and we do that. I think new technology lets us do that much better. Previously, it was very manual. I think I can't speak to other banks, but there are lots of processes that are not modern, meaning a person typing, a person copying, pasting. But we use the newest paradigms, and the security team at Monzo, they're fantastic. They are like top of their industry in terms of security experts. And on the engineering team, every single feature would have a security element to it. So we'll think about security all the time. But we push a lot on automation. So if it's a process that needs to be accurate and needs to be reliable, get a computer to do it and build it the right way, and it won't break. But oftentimes, we've seen processes break if humans are in the equation, to be honest. If a person is processing something, you're going to get an issue. So again, it's betting and I'm speculating, but yeah, we automate a lot of our systems. And I think looking forward, that's how you're gonna win the safety game of security and making sure there are no mistakes or risks, really. A bit like driverless cars. Like one day, like Elon says, you're going to think it's natural that a computer drives you around and not a person, because they've got so much more power. So I think we're on that sort of thinking as well.
You're muted, Hadi. Okay, I think the time is nearly there, and we have one more last questions because the Yuan Wei also asked the questions before in the when it's in the list, so maybe last question to him, and then the other questions we have lots of them. We can just gather all together and send to you. You can email, and also feel free to ask Pete from WeChat or email. You can start your questions.
Hello, hi Pete. Thank you for the very insightful presentation.
Hey.
I don't come from a financial background. I just very curious about the banks and especially the Chinese banks. And I just got a question on. I don't know when at what stage you joined the company, and if it's in the very early stage, I guess there will be how many challenges you or your team faced. So I wonder if you could share some experiences of those the challenges that you faced and how you overcame them. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I joined like number 300. It grew to 1,200 in a year. You can immediately see the problem and the challenge there. Like, how do you scale day to day? What are the processes? How do you manage work? And I think the first thing was human. It was, again, people problem. So, culture changes. You can't go from everyone in a room. 300. We had a space to fit 300 people into, and we had a weekly meeting. And now suddenly you can't get that small thing, but it implies that culture changes a bit. And then your organization changes. So, it's the typical business case study. What is the org chart? And we went from small, fast teams to like big teams of the same type. So there was a restructuring. We drew the circles differently, and we found different ways of organizing teams. I think in short, it was like core teams and then like support teams. So it'll be like core revenue, core regulation, core inner human resources. So that was a big learning challenge from that size. What else is there? In that period, we were also managing a few big projects, and they were quite, so, okay, the one thing about Monzo is that the one thing that makes them very, very different internally, they're very transparent. So I could read any document top to bottom in any boardroom, any meeting doc, and we would talk about everything transparently. And that's something I'm trying to bring to my own company. And what I found is that it's just great. There's no more politics to play. you get to speak with the user in mind. You're there to solve problems. Ideas go to the top, and it was a very respected culture, which is brilliant. But when you scale to 1,200 and you do have sensitive information, and you have new people that are not the startup kind, they're there for a job, or different type of person, transparency doesn't work so well. So we had secret projects. So for example, our USA project got told to the news. So we have one big team meeting, 1,000 of us at one go, and he's like, secret, everyone, like we're going to go to the US. You can't tell anyone, but we're starting to plan, and we're going to tell you about it because this is one big team. And that's difficult in a 1,000-person company, and eventually someone somewhere took that news and sold it off. So there's something to be tested there. Is transparency the cultural thing they want completely at that scale? I think culture changed a bit in that way. Yeah, it's people really. It's really people. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, I think it's got your time then. Thank you, Pete, for your time. Really appreciate my personal, because I invited you. I know you're very super busy on the product for our company. And let's open the cameras and we can take group photos, and also say thank you to Pete, and big shout out to Susan as well, eating, and everyone's coming then. And Susan, are you ready to do the screenshot?
I'm doing it.
Yeah, okay, let's say 3, 2, 1, cheers. Okay, yeah, great. Okay, thank you guys, thank you for your time. Thanks. And looking forward to the next month and business study forum as well. We hope can and tell us, and we have also a feedback form you can submit, so we will drop into the WeChat group. So just tell us what you think about and what topic you like, so we can bring more to you. Okay, thank you guys, and have a good evening, everyone. Yeah, bye bye.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Have a good evening. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.